what is to be independent and build things from the intangibility to the tangibility. In other terms, how to survive from nothing, produce from nothing, and materialize your idea and your wishes and what is about to be independent. So for this circumstance, we have here 4 representative figures, and that they will introduce each one himself. First, we start with Anne. And Anne is like the director of the Independent Art Publishing Fair. She's French, she's artist, and she also curates. And so, please just introduce yourself a little bit. And then we go with Tobias, and then with Nicolas, and so on. Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Hello.
And we have to speak loud. Hello.
Because
we have to speak especially here.
Inside that little thing.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. My name is Anne-Laure Franchette. I'm from Paris, and I'm an artist, a curator, and a publisher. And 3 years ago, with my friends Gloria and Patricia, we started to organize this book fair volumes. Because we all come from the ground of art history and publishing, and we felt there was a lack of such an event in Zurich. So there used to be a zine fair called Zine Secession, which took place in Perlamode, where Esther was a resident at the time, and which was called Zine Secession, but it only lasted for 3 years, and it stopped maybe 8 years ago, something like that. It was 2002.
2010 or 9 or something.
Okay, a bit later. And yes, so we're very happy to that it's going so well.
It's going on, yeah. Thank you, Anne. Thank you. So, Tobias, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, my name's Tobias Gutmann. What should I tell about me? I'm an illustrator, artist. I have an ongoing project called the Faceamat, which is a little box with a hole in it. I set it up on a table, and I travel around the world with it and meet different people and draw like abstract portraits of them. That's one project, and besides that, I paint, do illustrations, and sometimes publish fanzines or stuff like that.
Thank you, Tobias.
I'm Nicolas Polli. I come from Ticino, the Italian part of Switzerland, and in 2000 I'm a graphic designer and a publisher. And in 2012, with a friend, a photographer, we started a photography magazine called Yet Magazine. And we started, as we didn't have money, we started as a online-based magazine, and then in 2014, like last year, we started to publish also on paper, to get in contact with the people, and starting also to go to festival and trying to have a real contact with people. And so we are here for the 3rd year.
Thank you, Nicolas.
Okay, my name is Esther Eppstein. I'm running a space called Message Salon. I'm running this place since 20 years in Zurich, and I guess a lot of people know the Perlamode, which was at Langstrasse. I was part of the Perlamode from the beginning with other projects, and my thing is more doing exhibitions and events, and I also started to publish zines. And since this year, I have a new project called Message Salon Embassy, how you can see it here. And for this reason, it's kind of like an artist residence project. I invited artists from Tel Aviv to come to Zurich for 1 month. And the outcome of this residency was not to do an exhibition, or it was to do a magazine, a zine, because it was not the idea of making a show or making an exhibition. It was more about networking and meeting people and come together, and the output of the zine, maybe something we can talk about later, why I think it is such an interesting format. I can explain maybe later.
Thank you. So with these 4 relevant figures, I would say it's just like a symbolic representation of what do we have in this, let's say, diversification of independent publishers at the fair. And what I would like to start to discuss is how do you start actually your career as independent, and when do you move to materialize your work into something tangible? As you know, the subject of the video we did in collaboration for the project here, it's called Intangible, from intangible to tangible, and I was very seduced about the transition that as independent producers or cultural producers you have to deal with in materializing your ideas, and I do believe that's the best example about who materialize and realize subjects of research or ideas or wishes or desires are independent publishers, independent filmmakers, independent video artists, independent curators, and so on. So for me, I would like to ask you and question you, how do you experience, and from where and from when, if we can place it in time and space, from when came that, I mean, from originally what is the motivation that make you go on and materialize your practice? So if you want to start...
I think one of the things that is really interesting about the whole point of independent practices is this microeconomy of art, and I guess it's this DIY culture of people doing things themselves and not asking for permission or not waiting for opportunities given by institutions. So institutions being like galleries, museums, maybe like big publishers, and just like taking control of like their own production and just giving a shape, physical shape to the ideas.
Yeah, so you will say also it has to do with making an alternative economy, a microeconomy, a creative economy that doesn't have the capital values, but it has other values that are not into quantification, but into materializing ideas, maybe.
Yeah, and I guess it's not driven by profit as well. Initially, like it's good if it's sustainable.
Yeah.
But
Hopefully.
I mean that's what people try to do. But it's not initially driven by profit.
Yeah, that's what you guys think.
Yeah.
What is your experience from there?
I think, as Anne said, a project like this starts for us, for example, started in a naive way. We started a project thinking that was a personal project, and then we tried to publish it online, because for us was the best way of trying to find new viewers, and it was online. So online we found that there was an interest in what we were doing, and so kind of with this zero budget we tried to continue and saying, okay, let's try to find new contents and trying to find new way of creating this magazine. And so from zero, if you want, from an idea just, you can try to do something, and nowadays we have the possibility to do also at zero. But after, my question is also what is independent today, because I think a lot of people here, us too, we are there is also some finance inside. We have some foundation that they help us. So the question is also what is independent?
Totally independent or dependable of what or who also, how you say.
Of course, it's more independent than something else. We are not like working for money. We are not working for that precise mission, but there is something that you have to have for continuing and trying to do your stuff in a certain way. If not, it will be impossible.
But actually, even if you have fundraising or look for funding, still you have some sort of independent criteria. And for me, it's interesting to understand. So dependable of who and what, and does that mean in itself a statement? Actually, be an independent artist that doesn't have a gallery to represent him, or being an independent curator who doesn't work here for an institution, or be an independent publisher who doesn't have an editorial house or so on. So what actually, is that a statement, being independent? Or what actually, because I guess it has to do also with materializing, not in terms of also of your practice or art practice, but your living, no? And when we talk about the materialistic aspect, we also talk about human relations and human construction, about goods. And so for me, I have the impression is also a very strong statement to say I am independent. And I'm interested in to know your knowledge about that, to understand what's your experience, because from outside it seems like, oh, it's so cool, you're independent, but all the struggle, and I think Esther it's a person who can tell us with more expertise than no one what actually means to actually be a figure of counterculture, of building, let's say, being outside of what is the market regulations, or so it doesn't go only about I do my project, but it's also, it gives a statement about the economy also, and the values of what production has to be quantified and so on. So let's say, what is your point about or what do you like to share with us?
About your question before, when this point came, or how is my stories. I'm like from this generation. We grow up with the copy machine. That was the thing. That was a possibility to start with not a lot of money to do something, and to use it as a platform. So that's also how I try to use my zines. It's kind of like a new media. I have an art space. I have maybe an audio, a record, and I have a zine. It's like another platform. And for me, for example, I'm interested to do solo shows also in the zines. I have like one artist for one zine, and I try to keep it as open. There is some things like the format. There is also the money, of course. How many is possible to put together? All these technical things, but the content should be like free, or like a platform in a space.
Yeah.
So, and about this in-depthing, how you call it? Depth in
Intangibility?
Yes. Sorry.
Yeah, no.
Oh my, not so good English. So, it came from this, maybe also from this punk attitude, do it yourself, and the scene has its story actually in the punk and skater culture. And now turned into something that comes into the art. It hasn't been in the arts from the beginning, and but I think it has this atmosphere, this also to transport an idea, not just to look glossy and shiny.
Yes.
I think this is also what makes it so attractive.
Maybe
for
it
me
has
or
a
for
contestatory position, or like sort of a guerrilla style of
yes, it's also style. It's a kind of style as well.
But more, I wonder, part of style, what actually means to materialize that. I mean, I guess it has to. I mean, in my personal humble experience, it has to do a lot with struggle. Like you have some wish and some desire, and you want to materialize it, and it implies even sacrifices. I mean, because it's a sort of it's a statement. It's not only okay, like it's cool. No? So, but it's
for sure nothing to make a lot of money.
What are those struggles? I mean, why are so important our wishes and our desires to be materialized and tangible as artists?
Yeah, that's the basic question.
That we ask ourselves like every day, why am I doing this? Why am I spending so many hours?
It's a question.
Yeah.
So,
I think the reason why I do like independent stuff is because I can experiment new things. I can do stuff nobody else has to tell me what to do. I can just try out and test out without restrictions.
Yeah.
And of course it has to be very low budget if it's because I want to be independent, I want to visualize my ideas. So that's why for me it's important that these independent projects are also very low budget, and also I think I mean that I just work with paper and ink and like the minimal like material costs, but that I think that's enough to visualize
that's
your
a very
ideas.
interesting aspect also, because it has to do also how do we produce something from nothing, or how do we produce something with what do we have, no? And I guess that also has to do about the do-it-yourself culture. But I'm still very curious about how do you see, or how do you believe, or how do you transform that desire and need of produce something? Because actually, for my position, I will say that it has to do with your motivation. You know? So I believe there is an urgency or an urge of have a position about what do you experience in life, or what do you experience, how do you see, and how do you produce, and so you build your position, and it's like, well, that's the world, how it works, and that's my position. So I guess that also has to do about being independent, and I wonder yes, it's a position, okay, yes, it's a statement, but what means actually? What are the struggles that, as independent, you have to go through because of the desire and the wish and the need of materialize and make tangible your ideas that actually are some sort of need? Because it's not
one
like,
of the
okay,
motivations is the spreading.
Yes.
That's I think the difference between doing an exhibition where you have a certain audience come to spread, to have something in your hand. Also, you can take it in your suitcase, you can give it to somebody. It spreads your ideas or your statement, and this is the fascination about publications in general. I think
the need for change.
It has a political.
Share
impact, you know.
Yes.
It has, which is, even if it's a small addition, you still can spread your ideas in a different way than being not so physical.
That has a lot of value actually. That's the value of it. To share your position and be able to.
And in your case, with the internet, that's a new kind of
Exactly, it's
level.
what I was thinking.
That's the new
Yeah.
level.
Yeah, it's
This is what I was going to say. Actually, what is materializing today? Because materializing, we see it as a tangible object that we can
Exactly,
touch.
yes.
But of course, materializing something is also putting on the internet, because in a way
Yes.
you're sharing something.
Yeah.
So in a way, it's materializing something, but in a new way of materializing
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
There is a lot of things that now are born just in digital way, and there are a lot. It's like the 2.0 of a scene production. And
But at the same time, they seem to, the haptic thing has a revival too. I think,
It's helping each other.
because there is also a need for exactly this kind of material or
This is the
Yeah.
important.
paper. And,
This is the interesting point, because we are an example of something that is started to internet, but with the necessity of trying to create something on paper. We saw that actually, even if we are like internet native, or I'm an internet native, I see that the importance still now to go and share things with real people, and it's really interesting because just with real people you can have
Yes.
really real emotion, like
Yes.
real feedback.
Actually,
and stuff like this.
it's a very good question. I remember with Anne, when we were talking about doing something, I immediately asked, well, let's take this subject about intangibility to tangibility. Why? Because I wonder what is the point of publishing today? Because of the internet. So we have all this international platform for sharing, and actually printing is expensive. It becomes a luxury object. It's like it's a luxury good actually, because it's handmade and it has all this, all this work in it. And so we're like, why do we need, actually in a technical aspect, I would say that we don't need that sense of reproduction. But what I do believe is that we do need to materialize things. And that's why in the video program we talk about performativity and embodiment, and how do we make a transition from the intangible to the tangible. And so then for me, people who produce prints, who produce paper and drawings and scenes, etc., is this need of physical. It's a very human need that it doesn't have to do with the functionality, with in terms of we don't need prints. We don't need.
Yeah, but why do we buy things anyway?
Yes,
we have nice.
But why do we produce
furniture,
it?
We have Yes, we have all, and this is something human, as you said, that I prefer to have a library where I can
Touch
take the
things,
books and not just a laptop.
But
Even if for myself, but maybe we shouldn't say one or another. It just comes together. I think the things more and more we can choose from so many different medias, and that's
Exactly.
It's actually just growing.
It's a common ground, I would say, that we need, as independent. That's what I thought about. It has to do with it being independent. For me, there was a link very obvious there, and it had to do with materialize things and the desire and the need to perform, with your body. To do things with your body and to make it touchable, to make it to feel the things, to feel, and so for me that was also the subject to take into account. And I wonder, so for you, what is the let's say, even if you for sure may not work in performance per se, but what is this aspect of perform through your body and materialize things also? Because that's what is the different experience in the internet generation, that we don't need to print and we don't need to materialize information, but we still, as humans, we need to produce things through the body. We need to paint, or we need to, and so why do we need that? What do you think? Why did you say that?
I have something interesting to say about I think the internet also really changed our culture.
Definitely,
and because we live in this digital world, we appreciate much more when we can have something physical in the hand. And I have a little story with my face samat, because I do that in very different cultures. So I did it in Western cultures, in Tokyo and in Tanzania. And I think the project worked best in those cultures that are very driven by technology, because my little box is very analog and nothing. And when I did it in Tanzania, people were really confused. They didn't understand, why am I doing this analog thing. I think,
mobile phone.
I think they would have preferred if I would come with a really high-tech
camera, ultra nice positive.
So I think that's something interesting when it says about
There's this relation between the object and the internet. It's interesting because when the internet became so mainstream, everybody predicted the death of the printed matter. And we've seen all this resurgence, but it's actually been helped, that's what you were saying, by the internet, because now people produce zines and they sell them online and they share about it online. It's not just going to this little zine shop and going to those clubs.
It's a bit,
but so it's kind of strengthening this sense of community as well. It's making it worldwide, and so it's what was supposed to be against the object is actually helping the object and making it in a way more valuable and more appealing.
But also in a producing way, internet and the digital world is helping us a lot. I mean, the expandable. I'm not speaking about Rizzo or stuff like this, but the digital technique of printing allows also to reducing the price and stuff. So in a way, it helps for the distribution, and we can have a lot of more followers than before. In a way, people that are interested in our project, but at the same time, we can have also less amount of price spending. So it's more easy now today to do something in an independent way. And you see it today. I mean, also organizing something like this with 50 people with their own project, it's great. It's amazing.
Completely great.
And there are not just 50. There are huge amount of.
And also the exhibition, international exhibition, that occupies more. So now I would like to question. So virtuality and materiality, or the tangible aspect about that. So when we say about intangibility, let's say we could also talk about virtuality. So it is more real because it's printed, or it is more, let's say, human, or so we publish online, or we do virtual projects online, and it's the same as you say, that you have this dispositive that is completely analogic. So what is your position about this?
I didn't really understand, but I want to say something.
Yes.
I found it interesting what you said, that you now, after doing this on the net, that you feel the need to make it more personal again, you know, and that's what I think is nice, that we can bring these levels together. We have both things, but there is a need. Also, why do we have this kind of fair? Because we want to come together and share in personal, you know. We have also the internet, we can also share on internet, but there is still this
We need
thing
that,
to come
human
together and
reunion.
yes, to have this sharing and these talks from human to human, and this is still maybe human mankind will be different in 500 years, I don't know, but still it's the basic thing we still, and we also use the internet to share also, and so it's I think this will not disappear, I'm sure.
yeah.
You know,
It's about the experience.
Yes,
I
yes.
think it's
Also,
about,
you know, the vinyl is coming back, but also, as you said, in a more luxury version. Like more, this is now
The
like,
value
oh,
makes
this is
have changed.
vinyl. This is,
it's coming
this is
back.
vinyl.
Maybe it's also a nostalgia, no?
But kind of, but I think it will stay. You know, it just gets its own little maybe luxury corner.
But also here in this fair we are speaking about a specific niche of books. We are not speaking about books in general.
Yeah.
Books in general will die because for me the books like written books, it's so easy now to, and it's also
So only
not really
special
annoying.
books will survive.
I mean, we are speaking about really special books here. And I can speak about my experience in photography. Photography is a kind of strange media that now it's really all about digital in a way. There is a lot of people that are working analog and these kind of things, but everyone have a website. Every photographer have a website. Everyone wants to publish his project. Everyone wants to be seen. But the importance of the book today in this field, it's really interesting. Never like today, people wants to be published as photographer in books. Because it's something, it's a statement.
It's like the medal.
Exactly, it's something more, because everyone can do it on internet. Why? I will be more important if I have if I'm in an exhibition, but also if I have my book. I mean, it's something that gives like to say, I'm a photographer that is already established. I have a book. It's something that today is even more than before. It's like
It has some value.
exactly.
It's this heritage of vanity publishing, because that's what vanity publishing used to be something like that was badly considered, because it was basically all the people that were rejected by all the main publishers. We were the only one publishing. But these days, because everybody's publishing, everybody's doing vanity publishing, self-publishing, now it's accepted, and it's valued. So it's funny as well, this shift in the way we perceive the fact that we take action by ourselves. Before it was like, oh, you do it by yourself because nobody else wants to print it. And now it's like, oh, you do it by yourself. Like, it's a really interesting shift.
Yeah, what I also think is very interesting is the social aspect, because we kind of already talked about it, but I think a book has such a different value if I know, you're the one who made this magazine, and I have like a face behind the product, and I think that's super important. Also, the personal aspect.
So you have to do also with that human exchange, and that need also relations, and I would say human relations.
Yeah, it's about you can meet the artists, you can meet the people who produced by going to those fairs.
Anyway, I think this will be, in general, this will be more and more a need because of this internet, because of this social media thing we can have, but what people still need is interaction between humans.
Real
and I think this value will be more and more a value, you know, something that is really something. You know, also to share time together, just to share time, to share talks. That's I think also in the art world, this will be more and more actually something to work with. Just for example, the thing I did, this embassy, that also was mainly about sharing time together and getting in contact, and that's kind of luxury almost. You know?
Totally.
So this becomes more and more a value, I think.
Yes.
And this is also kind of part of it.
Yes. No, totally. I would like to mention also that there was the program of performance also that was a bit integrated into the fair, and there were some examples about relational aesthetics projects or social sculpture projects that also had to do with building situations and making human relations, like make the dispositive of human relations, like the project of Magda Ross that was into that aspect of anthropological research, of going through having a conversation and I mean, as simple as that looks like, it's as a complex and means to build human relations. No? And also the Hospice der Fortei, the Lessons research project, that is their statement is about productive, non-productive production, and they build a dispositive for sharing and how a human relation dispositive of sharing something that not necessarily has to do productive, but just the circumstance of the possibility of change. And I think that really suits in match the aspect of the affair in itself, because the affair is not only about it's not only about selling. I mean, for sure there is this transaction aspect of the material value.
Actually, not so much about selling.
Yeah, I mean, it has that.
Unfortunately.
But it has that aspect, let's say, to make it auto-sustainable, hopefully, to make it auto-géré, possible to exist, to sustain. But my impression as a spectator is also that it's also about sharing and meeting all together. And I was fascinated also how Anne was so excited gradually, because it's a extremely diversity pushing aspect, and the figures that came are like special.
Also, what you said about that, you think that the book will disappear. I also believe these things. I also believe our society, when it probably will change, that we may not need so many materialistic things anymore. I think we already feel a bit an overkill. Everybody has too much. We already have too much from everything.
Totally, yeah.
And these things are like special. Then we choose really special things, nice things. And I don't need all these things anymore. That's our luxury society, how we are now. We can start to reduce.
So maybe it's not about the accumulation of or overvaluation of goods, but maybe about making valuable, meaningful.
That's the same thing. It goes into a similar direction. Also, when we have to face all these problems about environment, about resources, all these things. This is going to be the topics of the next generations.
I think you have to speak about books as it is with music today. I don't know who said about the vinyl. You said about the vinyl that keeps coming back. It's true. There is more people buying, not of course in quantity, but there is more people buying vinyl than CD now. You don't buy the CD anymore. Exactly. And CD is like book. It's like one normal book.
Yeah.
Now you want a special book. You don't want this book that looks as crap and is still costing a lot.
Yes.
You want something that is costing a little bit more,
it's the
but
fetish.
Yes.
and after you look at
you
listen at MP3 and that's it.
Yeah.
But you have this object, and a lot of people are giving free.
It's the object, exactly. It becomes a piece. It's like also the book.
But that's also to material, like we put value in objects, but here we want to put like a human value and also through the experience. I would like to have that. I want to believe that it's about the experience that the object can remind us, but not in itself of their material value. So maybe it's through books, independent publishers, or through a performance, through video, we can experience something that is meaningful, and so that's why we after become fetishist collectors of.
And also what you said about this personal thing, for example, what I still do, but because I'm coming from this old school, I'm always doing flyers. I'm always having flyers with me, because this is still the most efficient thing. When you meet people you go out and you have a flyer, it's like a personal invitation. It's not the same like having an email, newsletter, Facebook. Of course, it's information, but to have it in real is, or maybe also in our times, is something special. So for me, the print thing is still. I don't think it's gonna disappear totally. I don't believe it is. It's still something very personal in a way. It goes in this similar direction we were talking about.
Great. Well, thank you very much for your attention. Thank you.
Already finished? You wanted to have
you want to say something else?
Maybe
just Tobias wants to be final statement.
Final statement.
Say something philosophical.
Just let's continue to do fun stuff.
Having fun, and let's continue being independent. Thank you very much.
Yes.
you.